Well, welcome to our Friday Roundup.
Thank you for having on your show again. I wanted to start with the most historic thing never happened in the U.S. history, and this happened for the first time. It happened in a courtroom in New York. Can you tell us what happened there?
Well, what we saw was the criminal indictment of a former president of the United States. That has never happened. It's happened in other democracies. We saw this happen in France. We've seen this happen in Latin American countries. But we've never seen it happen in the United States before. And there was deep discontent or discord or wonderment whether this was even a good idea. And there's been this argument that no man is above the law, but there's also been this counter argument that it is going to give the former president's allies strength. And so there's this balance. We don't even know how this is going to play out.
But whenever this happens in a third world country, there's always an allegation or that this is politically motivated, the ruling party is doing that. Similar allegations coming from the Republican side as well.
That's correct. And of course, the thing is that New York DA Alvin Bragg is a Democrat. So we cannot forget that. But he is not a federal Democrat. He works for the state. And if you're going to be a district attorney, you also have to prove a case to your jury of peers. And so it's not enough just to indict somebody, but one has to prove the case. And I can't think of how this attorney general is actually going to get 12 jurors anywhere to agree about former President Trump, because there's such a partisan divide. Now, it is true that Trump only got 10% of the vote
in that county.
In that, yes. But the thing is that you only need one juror to say, no, that's not going to work. And that would be crippling, frankly, for the argument that nobody is above the law, because they would say, look, you made this a partisan show. Look, the former president was found not guilty, and so it could be a terrible blow.
What is your assessment of the case against him?
Well, the rule in cases, and I'm not a lawyer, but the rule is keep it simple, you know? And so the thing is that I don't think President Trump is even arguing that he broke the law. Although, no, I take that back. He has said he's broken the law. But the argument now is from DA Bragg is that this is a felony, which means that it has to be piled on top of crimes. Now, we have seen that Bragg also brought in two other cases, and that was the case with Karen McDougal, who is the Playboy model and also a former bodyguard to Trump, that claimed, from what we gather erroneously, that Trump had fathered an illegitimate child. I guess that could prove a pattern of misconduct, but it's risky to bring any charge against a former president.
It's true that no one should be above the law, but isn't it going to open a kind of Pandora box for the future when other people, occupant of the White House, may charge their predecessor, drag them to the court for one reason or the other? That's
absolutely true, and I think that is one of the deep concerns about this. Already, there's been talk that Republicans want to bring President Biden, when he becomes a former president, up on charges for something, for whatever. And we actually saw this with Benghazi. We actually saw where they just dragged former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton through the dirt, had her testify before the House committee for over 10 hours, basically to hurt her presidential ambitions, which Speaker McCarthy said worked.
What impact this case is going to have on the next year presidential election cycle? Number one. And number two, or do you think there will be other major impact on the Republican primaries?
Two things. Remember that the most important political force in American politics is the independent voter, neither Republican nor Democrat. And so it really is how the independents see this thing. And I don't know how the independents are going to see this thing. I don't think anybody knows how independents are going to see this. There is this assumption by Democrats that independents will believe in the rule of law. But a year off in politics in Washington, D.C. is like a millennium. Anything can happen. We remember that when George H.W. Bush had pushed for Operation Desert Storm, he had an approval rating of 90%. It was almost assured that he was going to win re-election, but he didn't. He lost to some obscure governor from Arkansas.
Yeah. So, while history was being created in a courtroom in New York, and I believe no American citizen would like that kind of history to be created. Quite unfortunate that a former president has been indicted. All this was going on. Something else important was happening in Wisconsin and Tennessee.
Oh my gosh, two state legislators, well, one was the Wisconsin Supreme Court, a huge deal. In fact, it may be the most important election of 2023 because the Supreme Court in Wisconsin was controlled by Republicans. Even though courts are not supposed to be partisan, they are. And Wisconsin's conservative Supreme Court was able to uphold gerrymandered districts, uphold a slew of laws that would have a huge impact, not just in Wisconsin, but on electoral politics, because Wisconsin is a swing state. So it mattered a great deal. It even could matter who becomes the next president of the United States, given that it was only one vote that made a difference in the Wisconsin Supreme Court whether or not to overturn the election in Wisconsin.
And in Tennessee?
And Tennessee, wow, what an event. Here we had yet another mass gun shooting with the killing of 3 9-year-olds and then 3 faculty members. One was the principal, one was a janitor, and another. And students came out to protest. And they came to the Tennessee State House to protest. And 3 Democrats joined those students. Now, there was no damage, there were no arrests, it was a peaceful protest. However, the Republicans have a supermajority in Tennessee with 75% of the vote, so they can basically do whatever they want to. And they claimed that this was disruptive, that it was out of order, which it was disruptive. I mean, there was no doubt about that, but was it violent? There was no accusation by anybody that there was any illegal behavior occurring here. And the Tennessee House of Representatives voted to oust, well, they voted to oust 3 Democratic lawmakers, and 2 of them were ousted. One of them was kept in. And that woman who was kept in said that the reason that they kept me and they ousted the 2 others is I'm a white woman and those are 2 black men. Ouch. Ouch if that's true.
From courtroom in New York to Wisconsin Supreme Court to Tennessee, and we are here at the White House. I'll take you away to the 1 mile away from here, the US Capitol, the temple of American democracy. The most important question in that building today is, when is Speaker Kevin McCarthy going to bring his own budget?
Huge problem. I mean, the thing is that House Speaker Kevin McCarthy made many promises in order to grab the gavel. And now he can't live up to those promises. The thing is that he still hasn't been able to provide a budget, and time is ticking. The thing is he's promised that he would balance the budget within 10 years and that any negotiation for cuts on Social Security and Medicare were off the table. Well, that's impossible then to balance the budget. And President Biden has already said, look, I'm waiting for a budget here. And Speaker McCarthy has now taken to blaming his own conference, his own people, saying that Steve Scalise is incompetent, that the budget chairman doesn't know what he's doing. Basically, he's throwing, I don't know how this is going to land, but this isn't a very good thing when you're blaming your own people.
Okay. So next week we're going to ask this question again. We'll keep on tracking all the 3-4 major developers that we have discussed here today. Till then, I think we should say goodbye to all of them.
We should. This is great.
Thank you.
Thank you. In the rain, we did it. All right. And for 5WH, join us every week for our weekly roundtable. And don't forget to check out this video over here that YouTube says you must see. And over here, look at this video about our weekly roundup.